You might be wondering why there's no background music, why the D&D session hasn't begun yet, and why you're only seeing a video with me talking but not hearing anything. Well, let's just say last session we ran into a little bit of a problem, but I wanted to take this problem as an opportunity to talk about the world I've developed in the session. I mean, we'll go through a breakdown of the session a little bit. If you're wondering why I am doing a voiceover of this, essentially what ended up happening in our last D&D session, while my players, and you can hear them, in which you're going to be seeing through certain clips in this little recap here, you can hear them. But you can't hear me as the DM. Now, they can hear me in the call, but when we were recording this, apparently my microphone settings on my mic line reset for whatever reason. I don't know if it was because of my computer update or if my program updated and I just forgot to check it. So, well, they could hear me and they could react to the story and the session that was going on. That didn't end up happening. So what we kind of had to do is I needed to come up with a plan B. And that plan B obviously was to do a voiceover recap. And like I said, I think this was an opportunity because I can kind of talk about not only what happened more so in the session and what started up in the session, but some of the ideas behind what I'm doing and what I can do like in between sessions when you see me talk to players and stuff like that. There's a bit more of behind the scenes work that I can discuss here. So I'm going to get started with just kind of the session recap. So hang on for the ride. This was session 3, which was Winding Roads and Crossing Paths. And the session begins pretty much where our last session left off, where we have our friends, our hero party, essentially had just cleared out a bandit camp. They had cleared out the remnants of the Trymx Bandits, or a part of the Trymx Bandits from Aramenthia, who have been causing problems for them in the last few sessions. And upon annihilating this entire bandit camp with the assistance of a friendly NPC and playable character who I've wanted to make as a playable character personally for a long time, Tysom Wittlebane. He's a Drake Warden Ranger, which is a character I wanted to make and I wanted to play for a long time. So the fact that I was able to do that as a CNPC here and assist them to get out of the camp was awesome. Obviously, there were some really funny moments in session 2 where Tysom watches one of the party members goes down and he's like, no, it's fine, you guys got this, and he goes off to clear like another end of the bandit camp. But that's basically what they ended off. And after having some conversation with Tysom brought up some really important notes saying that, you know, the lawmaster from Korum, which is the main town they started in, was going to look, wanted to look for you, as she kind of truly did care, and Tysom realizes he said too much at that point. But Tysom also brings up a lot of other, like, key points to the characters. You should probably go back to Korum, let them know they're alright. Don't rush to get to Vestadt, especially if you want to go through the Zyfel Forest, which is a magical forest. Essentially, it can end up in a maze, which is not something you want to be doing, or it's not something you want to happen, especially with the party still being quite a low level 4. They haven't entered Zyfel Forest yet. I have plans for that coming up later, but that's where our party starts. And at the end of the combat from the last session, it's about 2 in the morning, 1:32 in the morning after they complete combat with the bandit camp. So obviously they need time to rest, and my friends, they take a moment here to rest.
I think Sickle's just kind of gonna look around to everybody and be like, so, how y'all feeling?
I mean,
honestly, I am quite exhausted. I don't think we even had a proper rest in a while.
Yeah.
The way to Korum's gonna be a while. I know this, so we should probably get some rest. It may be a little weird to sleep around the bandit camp, but it sure beats sleeping in a cage.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we can pull up this house right here and get some rest.
And they take a moment to like regroup and do everything. But the morning comes relatively quickly, and they knew from Tysom that it was going to take 2 days to go get 2 days to get to Korum, which was really important. So that means they were going to need one more day of rest, but they at least tried to get some rest. I had all my players roll d20s to see who was going to essentially get the bed in the room, but they came up with that. And the morning comes and some nice conversations happen, and this is where we start to get some of the really cool player interactions that we had for for the session. One of my friends, Pikmin, who is playing Sickle the Tabaxi in this campaign, has a jeweler's kit, and I already kind of had a feeling what they were going to do when they mentioned this with the jeweler's kit, but they wanted to sit down and they wanted to start crafting something. And immediately off the bat, I'm like, okay, I read this in Sickle's backstory, often crafts jewelry and bracelets for their friends. So I didn't want to reveal that, obviously, to the party, so I had Sickle start working on it, and for that, I had Pikmin roll a performance check, which, obviously, the better the performance roll, the faster they were going to be able to get it done. Really bad performance rolls throughout, like, the entirety of this entire session from Sickle, so it took the maximum amount of time of 6 hours to make these 3 bracelets that Sickle ended up making, but the others didn't know about it at the time.
Instead, I think I'm just going to sit at the table, and I'm going to, I think I'm just going to take out my jeweler's kit, and I want to start kind of working on something. Performance. Do I add proficiency since I'm proficient in jeweler's tool?
That sounds good.
How's a crisp 7 sound?
And as they kind of gather up, Missouri struggles out of bed. Waverly, there's a really funny moment where I described Waverly somehow falling asleep on 2 barrels uncomfortably, her hair in an absolute, like, frizz like you get after the rain. Super funny. Waverly's played by Badalak. I got a little rise out of the players with that one. That's always fun to do, especially when you're creating the feel and the environment and what the players are, because all in all, they're in a bandit camp, and the first thing they want to do, obviously they were really worried, so they wanted to kind of like look out of the camp, investigate it. They cleared out the camp entirely. No one knew that this bandit camp was even here besides the Trymx Bandits at the time, so all in all, it was very, very easy for them to escape and you know, get ready to go on the road. And after some conversation, they started looking at the camp. A couple people found some really important items. Badalak actually found a pole of angling as well, so they can now have at least a fishing pole in that regard. And the party essentially ended on their way, and they started walking on the road toward Korum. And one of the most interesting things here, especially with the party walking toward Korum, was there is this thing that is still technically being set up, that if any of my players are watching this recap right now, a lot of it, the start of it, a lot of it was set up here and now. There was a lot of really good setup for things to come for my players in this episode, and one of them involves something Tysom said, which we'll get to when we go to Bellmeyer, which my party does eventually reach in this session, but we'll get to that when the time comes. But it does involve the necklace that Sickle wears. So as my players are traveling down the road, I decided, okay, this is now a time for me to get this and start to get this to work. So, you know, they traveled through the road. Mostly, I wasn't going to have any, there was no encounters planned for the party on the way back to Korum. I even had in my DM notes, I had very specifically no fighting encounters back on the way to Korum. But what I didn't let them know is that there was going to be a very important event, and one of those is that Sickle started hearing ringing in their ears, followed by the sound of church bells, and a voice that said, "Keep going, child. I have my eye on you." And it's at this point that Sickle's necklace has started to change for the players. Now, the necklace, as described, and I even talked with my player who's playing Sickle, again, Pikmin, about this, with the backstory. The necklace was initially given to them. Actually, I shouldn't actually say that for the sake of my other players who might be watching this right now. But Sickle's necklace is, the most important thing is that Sickle's necklace is very special in a very unconventional way. But after hearing that voice, there's been a light that is now coming essentially from Sickle's necklace with that, and goes into the camp later that night. Sickle's necklace, as described initially to my players, who they do know what the necklace at least looks like, it is a crest of Zyphel. Zyphel is one of my ruling dragons. She's the ruling dragon of Empyrean the Empyrean region, and Sickle's necklace is a crest of Zyphel. The crest of Zyphel is this golden-looking dragon symbol, and behind is kind of almost like a Japanese rising sun behind the dragon's head, almost in like a halo, and there's 5 beams that kind of shoot out from each individual end of that. And upon, reaching the road, hearing the voice, and getting to the camp that night, they start to notice that Sickle's necklace is now producing some form of light. And based on what Sickle will learn later, it's based on not only Sickle's thoughts, but they can control the power of this light. Additionally, as the power of the necklace starts to reveal itself, and more aspects of the necklace will be revealed in time. Like I said, a lot of this was a lot of setup. The big thing for the necklace here was hearing that voice and like explaining to the players that one of those 5 beams that's forming like the halo on the crest that Sickle's wearing is now glowing. It is now permanently glowing.
I tap it. This has never happened before.
I'll kind of move over to get a better look.
So the side I show you has obviously the crest I fell and the one glowing beam, but it also like kind of on the bottom of it, similar to like how a coin is like curved. The letters on the bottom, it has my full name, like Sickle's full name, on that side written in Elvish.
But the necklace in general also has this faint glow to it that kind of hides behind Sickle's overly sized armor right now. Sickle took adamantine armor off Captain Maddox, who was the leader of the bandit troop, and it currently doesn't fit them, but they are currently wearing it to an extent. Again, with no combat, it wasn't gonna have any like disadvantageous implications, at least at this moment. But that was the thing. So the night camp kind of comes through, and Sickle and the party, they have some more conversations. They had plenty of rations from the bandit camp, so they had plenty of stuff to at least make. Sickle continues to work on the bracelets, doesn't actually get a chance to finish them yet. Again, another terrible performance check from Sickle there. But additionally, in this camp, we also get a little bit of the character development between my players, where as Sickle pulls out this necklace, there are engravings on Sickle's necklace. And the one side is written in Elvish, and the other side is written in Draconic. And it's Sickle's true name, and Sickle's real name is Creamsicle. And oddly enough, Waverly does get a look at it and kind of chuckles, hiding what Sickle knows. Sickle, again, with like trying to hold like it was like an insight roll, or I had Waverly do like an insight roll. It was super funny because Sickle had no idea what Waverly was chuckling at due to that roll.
Sickle.
This is all in her head. She doesn't say this out loud.
Oh, in her head. Okay, I thought you said it out loud.
Just the inner monologue. I wonder if this is related to anything strange that happened earlier.
I'm just gonna roll insight for my.
Sickle.
I'm gonna roll insight for myself to see if I pick up on that. I rolled a 9.
Deadpan stare.
And Chaff's character Mizore ends up learning that name later as well when the necklace gets back revealed. So they had a very nice camp day, and they had a nice chance to kind of develop characters. A lot of role play in this episode, much less combat. I said to my players that, hey, there may or may not be combat in this session, and if there was going to be combat, it was actually going to be later in this session. But their first camping day goes out without a hitch, absolutely. The second day, the weather is hot, and considering how my characters are, Sickle lives in Empyrean, so Sickle is used to that kind of weather that Empyrean gets this time of year. Battle Axe character Waverly comes from the deserts of Aramenthia, so she's used to a super hot day. Mizore and Russell are two people that I consider Icekin. They are from the north. They are from the Ice Dragon Skasa's region, who is, again, another one of the 4 ruling dragons from the region Isilia. They are not used to this weather, even less so Mizore, and it gets to the point where this day is so hot that I actually have them make a Constitution saving throw, and they both fail.
Mizore just clearly struggling, even though she's dressed quite lightly. Her ears just drooping from the heat.
You feeling alright, Mizari?
Yeah.
This heat is unbearable.
Oh,
What about you,
yeah.
Russell?
I'm doing fine. I say that as my breathing is slightly heavier than the day before.
You
And
seem alright,
Russell is in
Waverly.
all Russell is in all black, so that makes it even worse.
Oh, yeah.
So they both take a point of exhaustion as the rest of this day goes throughout the trip. As they reach, eventually they go back and they reach a very familiar bridge in Korum, the same bridge that they were actually taken out of Korum on. That bridge was 2 hours, if I recall correctly, from Session 2. That bridge was about 2 hours out of Korum at the time. So they eventually make their way there, and they do stop and take a quick rest. But I let them know your exhaustion point doesn't go away until you take a long rest. So that is, like, one of the most interesting things. But after they get, 2 hours toward Korum, and they start kind of coming over some hills, and they can see, like, Korum in the distance as well, they eventually do make their way back into the town of Korum, which is obviously the town I had them start in. And as they arrive in the town, they run into, once again, the lawmaster, who seems to be having a day off today. Lawmaster Gledo, who I made very Scottish. She's got this Scottish accent. Although my female Scottish accent isn't great, I always try to do different voices to distinguish each of the characters in between everything, which is super important for me. I feel it gives my players more sense of the stakes, because the way the story is laid out right now, the tensions are very high between these kingdoms. War can literally break out at any time, and I want to be able to have my characters, and when they talk and they meet these people with all these personalities, I want to be able to invest them in those characters in case war does come to, and they have to either defend or work beside these characters. And that's one of the biggest and most important things for me when developing my story. And there are still elements that, like, I have the general mindset out of and it's written, but it's more so putting it in order, and that's one of the coolest things. But they end up meeting Lawmaster Gledo, once again, who is, she basically drops her battle axe at the sight of them, and her first line, and I recall very vividly saying this, was, "Holy shite, you're alive." And they, kind of, exchange some glances between Gledo, and Gledo wonders what the heck is actually going on. So she goes, "Well, you're going to tell me the story over a drink." And they all once again head into the Dancing Dragon Tavern, which is where they had their first combat encounter. And as they enter the tavern, they immediately notice the familiar barkeep Dane Sherris, as well as the scammy card player Logan Kitt. They're sitting at the same table playing cards, and Dane is keeping his eye on Logan, because Dane, I think, the way I see it, Dane sees Logan as the son he never, had, but he wants him to be better for himself, so he's always teasing him. But upon seeing the party come in, he's like, "Well, thank you, based on a thing that happened in Session 1, he's like, well, thank you for saving the tavern. Next time you guys come in, it's on me." So our party gathers, and again, we do have some more role play moments with Gledo and all of them, and Dane pulls out the barrel of capital wine that the bandits in Session 1 wanted to get a hold of, and my party defended Dane in that. So Dane breaks out capital wine. Everyone kind of has their own drinks. Russell and Lawmaster Gledo have the same thing. Sickle gets his milk. Waverly gets the drink I made Waverly in Sessions 1. It was like Crimson Dragon's Breath or Dragon's Rose. I forget exactly what it was. And Missouri has capital wine. Now, I wanted to have this really funny moment, and I was hoping it was going to happen, and it eventually did happen in the tavern, where I needed to make Missouri make a Constitution saving throw to prevent the drunkenness. First one, they succeeded, and it was like there was this really funny thing where I had Dane said, "Don't drink that too fast, or it's going to knock you on your ass faster than you can say Dragonborn." And Sickle Pikmin now then goes and says Dragonborn. It's super funny. And the way the setup for it was so nice and so hilarious, and it was so nice to see my players interacting with each other and the world and an NPC that I had developed well advanced and before the campaign. Like, I had an idea, and I'm like, okay, what if I want them to get arrested in the first episode? How would the lawmaster react? And it gets to the point where the lawmaster does reveal her true intentions. She always cared for them, and along with that, she decided, you know, you're unofficial guardsman of Korum at that point, and she was still thinking of pressing charges even when they went into the mine, but considering they disappeared, she thought they either like escaped or anything else. But they were alive, and they look a little worse for wear, and I think Gladeau did take notice of that.
Who wants to start?
Well, you see, so we went inside to try to flush out the Trymx Bandits, but before we did take out a good number of them, but before we know it, we were surrounded by at least 20 of those guys. And they ended up knocking us unconscious and taking us somewhere very far away. It was a little scary, but we were just in cages, we couldn't do much. And then they started interrogating us one by one about various different things. But it was, you know, they were about to execute us on the next day, but then you should have seen this. I was able to take these bandits out when they tried to stop me and Russell from breaking out. And that's where we saw Tyson as well. Went in there, guns a-blazing. He was the one that helped us out. You should have seen the number of bandits he took out. Whew. And we even took care of that bandit enforcer and the leader. Taught them a real lesson. And then
Are you drunk already? What is happening?
That drink is doing something right now.
And she obviously decided to drop the charges and talk about the party's future plans, which obviously that allowed me to develop where the party's going to go, more specifically going through the town of Belmire. And it's at this point that I actually made a mistake on my maps, and I let them know in the camp, but it was more prevalent here. I told them specifically when they were back in the camp just the day before they got to Korum. Tysom said it was going to take them 2 days to get back to Korum, which was very true. Initially, the scale on my map was 50-mile increments. But after looking at my map again and deciding, okay, a lot of these areas feel too small, I actually expanded those 50-mile increments of the map into 75-mile increments. So now, after they return to Korum, the new map scale would take effect. Not so much a retcon as it is me wanting to make the world seem a little bit bigger, because it does take quite a long time to get from one end of the Empyrean Empire to the other for these characters. So I wanted to expand the world a little bit, and instead of having a 21-day journey, initially what it was, from the furthest corners of the Empyrean Empire, it now became more like almost a month journey to go across the full Empyrean Empire, which in my eyes was a lot better of a decision, especially because the other regions around Empyrean is the central region of my world. The world of Vestadt, the continent of Vestadt. There are other regions, like the next biggest region is obviously the deserts of Eramenthia, which are to the east, which my party will get to at some point. More things need to be developed as time goes on with that, but this tavern scene allowed us to roleplay in and ask what the party wants to do, and obviously Lawmaster Gladeau lets them know it's going to take about 2.5 days to get to Belmire. She lets them know it's a relatively new town. They don't really know too much about it, and then she asks if they have any plans to do anything. And the party does want to do a couple things in Korum as well. They wanted to do some shopping, so I had some... They wanted to get like some supplies and stuff, so I had some NPCs and other characters prepared. One of them was this very adorable young girl who is based on one of the NPCs in a popular MMO I play, a 2D sprite-based MMO called Dungeon Fighter Online, and there's a lot of elements of this campaign that are like centered around Dungeon Fighter Online and the mechanics. Like the pantheon of Vestadt is the apostles of Dungeon Fighter Online, with obviously some changes to the world to kind of fit more of a D&D story style feel, but that my pantheon was based on the DFO apostles, and the months I didn't really want to change. All the months are kind of based on their apostles, and they're organized based on like what the apostles themselves represent. There will be a point, and I did let my players know this too after this session. There will be a point that I already have plans for them to at least meet 2 of the apostles, as well as potentially meet 2 more. There's a lot of stuff that has to be developed, especially with the B-Bag, who they have not met yet, nor have they gotten like any hint of who the B-Bag could be yet, because the elements of the B-Bag have kind of yet to be revealed, and certain aspects like that. So it was more of a again, a lot of setup with this first session, which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy a lot of setup. Sometimes I enjoy sessions without combat. It does make things feel more genuine, the world more developed. My players are doing a little bit of shopping, and they decide to actually split up. Instead of all going together to multiple parts, I mean, they could have done a lot of stuff in Korum. I had a lot of things planned, but they kind of took it their own way, and that was a lot of some of the freedom that I gave players. They were able to do whatever they wanted to in the inn, and the conversation in the tavern at the last night ended with, "Perhaps it was fate," from lawmaster Gledo, and obviously she looks forward to seeing them again if they ever come into Korum. So the next day, of course, arrives, and my party, again, they decide to split up. Obviously, Sickle wants to go get his armor refitted initially at the smithy, and Waverly decides to go with him as well, because she has like some stuff to sell. And Russell and Missouri actually start in this general store. But now we get into another part of the development of Sickle, and why Sickle to the players obviously is going to be so important. Sickle is a battlemaster fighter, for those who don't know. There are more things that are going to be developed with that on that front that I am very excited to show my players, as well as Pikmin, who is playing this battlemaster fighter. But they reach this statue, which they noticed in the heart of Korum when they initially got into Korum, but the last time they passed by the statue, they were in manacles being brought into the lawmasters. And there was one thing that the statue said. The statue, written in Draconic, or I'm sorry, not written in Draconic, I believe it was written in Common, in this regard. The statue said Korum Pharaoh. It was a statue of a Velstaran Dragon Knight. Yeah, so they interact with the statue, and Sickle, in a moment I didn't see coming, actually reaches out and touches the statue. And I said to myself, in that particular moment, I'm like, this is a fantastic moment to show that Sickle has control over their necklace. So the moment I had Sickle touch the statue, the glow that has been ever present ever since the necklace started glowing, it almost is like on Sickle's little heart, which is really cute. I thought that was a kind of a really cute detail. The glow expands out to like this 15-foot radius.
Have you tried, like, controlling it at all? Like, make it brighter, darker, at will?
No,
Just kind of shrug.
I haven't. Fair enough. My dad's tried to teach me magic, and sadly I never listened, so I don't understand this whole situation.
Hey, well, that's okay. You just gotta concentrate really hard on this one particular thing you want to do, and if you're lucky, it'll happen.
Alright, and I guess I'm gonna try to make the light on my necklace dimmer. Whoa.
See, you got it.
Huh. Sweet. And I pull my paw away again.
And it does get to that point, and Sickle finds, through pure experimentation, that they were able to control the light levels of this necklace, which I had planned for a while. Even talking with Sickle, like, post sessions, I said Sickle had this necklace on them even in their character's backstory, so I kind of went to my player Pikmin and I said, hey, you've got this awesome necklace, and in terms of your backstory, you've given me a lot to work with. Is it okay if I do certain things? And Pikmin said, absolutely, go ahead. But there was talk between session 2 and 3, between Pikmin and I, on the necklace and what the importance of that necklace is. Now, I wanted that necklace to be important anyway, especially considering it had a Crest of Zyfel on it. But this was a great opportunity after some conversation with Pikmin to really, like, preface that this is a big, important part of the story. So now Sickle has control over this amazing necklace, and I made it very clear here that only still one of the beams is glowing in this necklace. Not all of them. So eventually, of course, they do end up getting to the smithy, and they meet an older furball gentleman, a little gruff on the outside edge. He charges for his services quite fairly. Initially, I was going to have, from a DM's perspective, I was going to have no armor refitting be done for Sickle, but then I realized, yeah, there would definitely have to be work put into the armor fitting. You'd have to tighten straps or cut some things down. And the armor set is it's like almost a forest green with gray elements underneath, or possibly like Sickle's clothing underneath as well. That was ultimately up to Sickle. And it looks, it like this green with Sickle's orangish red fur. In my mind, the picture I see is just this amazing contrasting color scheme, which the orange and green and the slight red and green, it's a very pretty image in my head, and I can still vividly see it. And Missouri and Russell met this young shopkeep girl in this green dress with a green bow. She's again based on one of the NPC characters who's in DFO. Same name. I decided to keep the same name because the name was too cute, but I actually changed her age. A young girl in her like tweens. She wasn't quite a teenager yet. And there's this really cute moment where I got to play up this very young girl, very bright-eyed, cheery girl, very well-behaved, runs the shop, obviously, for her dad, although her dad is not really mentioned. Her dad doesn't play an importance at least in this particular scene. Kana is her name, which I actually don't think my players even know her name's Kana. Gets this real fascination with Missouri and seeing that Missouri is this fox person and has this really cute reaction to pet the ears. And I have a message from our Discord. I have the message from the Discord, and it's Battleaxe sends a message. Battleaxe, who plays Waverly, and they're obviously listening into this because it's just Missouri and Sickle. And there's this very the line in the Discord very specifically is where is it? Pikmin even says it too. Sickle is small, and that's referring to the armor. But then the next line, as I'm interacting this other scene, is Sickle puts in our Discord, precious child, and Battleaxe, who plays Waverly, goes, J-Man, I am dying. This is too cute. And Sickle responds, I will protect this child. And I don't want to spoil anything yet, especially because certain events could change certain things depending on how the players go. I would expect them to be seeing Kana again at some point, though. It'll be interesting to see the circumstances in which they see Kana again as well. So after all that happens, we get this really cute scene. They buy an extra 2-person tent, so they no longer have to sit in tents. So then they start to make their journey out of Korum and on their way to Belmire, which is obviously a 2.5 days journey. And they start to make their journey through, and they start to follow the road, and we get this really cool character moment here as well, where Sickle's like, guys, look what I can do, and tries to flamboyantly, like, show off that they can now control the light magic, and they learned a little bit of the magics from their parents. Sickle mentioned to Waverly that his parents tried to teach him some magic, but he never really picked up on it. So Sickle, kind of having magic for the first time, is impressed by this and tries to show off to the friends. I had Sickle roll a performance check.
I want to turn to everybody and just be like, guys, look what I can do. And I want to try to do the light thing again with my necklace.
Oh my god.
Oh, fuck. Stop rolling off. I rolled from a 12 to a 2. So that's a 3.
So they thought it looked cool, but everyone else just kind of rolled their eyes. It's like, oh yeah, that's not very impressive kind of thing. So that was funny and anticlimactic. I was really hoping Sickle was at least going to succeed on that check there, but unfortunately that didn't end up happening. And as the day went on, you know, they had their snacks and stuff. No combat happened on the first day. No combat happened on the first day, and they reached the camp. And this is where I started to set the seeds of a possible combat encounter as they reached the camp. As they set up camp for the night, I start playing creepy music. And you know when the DM starts playing creepy music that shit is about to go down. And as the night fades and Waverly goes to fish, I had everybody make a perception check. Now, the fact that Waverly's away from the group here was actually fantastic for me because Waverly actually has the highest passive perception at 18 compared to the group. So I had everybody else roll perception checks, and Mizore is the first one to notice it.
Oh no.
I swear there was something. Been having an uneasy feeling the whole time.
Y'all alright?
We were just checking something.
This is weird.
Could you elaborate?
Don't know, maybe I heard some rustling around the bushes. Thought someone might be trailing us. I just say as I go back.
Oh shit. I am running for my backpack and grabbing my wand.
I keep my sword drawn, and I'm just acutely making, like, I'm staying on guard as much as I can.
They approach the bushes, and there's nothing there. But now at this point, I have set the scene, I have set the tone, and the music is going. And with the music now going, they're all taking 2-hour watches as a party of 4 over a total of like 9 or 10 hours for this rest. And what's very unique about this scenario is initially I wanted to reveal who was following them here, but I'm like, let me wait until the second day, because most of their perception checks at night were they were decent enough where only 2 of them thought they saw moving shadows. Now the moving shadows was indeed the figure, but they opted not to approach that at night. If they actually would have approached the figure, they might have actually caught them in the act, but they didn't actually get the moment to. So that was a cool scenario there where I'm like, okay, I can move this into the next day. So now tension has been set, and there is this feeling that throughout the next day of travel, their 2.5 days of travel to Belmire, that they are immediately being watched and followed. So the next day kind of comes through, and their day comes through with some very solid perception checks. There's just this uneasy feeling, and then we get to the second day of camp once again. So at this point, I'm like, okay, Sickle is going to do the cooking here. And it's also at this point, the day prior, I should mention, the day prior, on the first day of camp, before they felt like, they were being watched, Sickle did manage to complete the friendship bracelets that all had the little charms on them, and they gave each one to one of their friends in the party. So that was a cute moment that kind of wrapped up the performance checks that I was having Sickle make throughout the session.
And you would probably also notice my tail sticking up and hooking that like a cat does when the tail goes up and curls. My tail does that too.
Do I recognize it as the thing you were working on days earlier? Okay. Well, can I walk over? You still working on that thing?
Not anymore. I just finished it.
Oh, nice.
Of course. Sure. I'm gonna pull Waverly aside. Hey, come here. And I'm gonna just. Oh.
Oh, sorry. Well.
Zoomies. So, I'm gonna reveal more when, Missouri and Russell are done doing their setup, but I made gifts for you all.
Oh.
I want to give them to you when you're all ready to receive them.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Sounds good.
Sickle has the biggest, dumbest smile on their face.
Oh. Okay, well, Waverly will go on like she heard none of that. Just acting totally normal.
That's a cool little moment. But they get to the camp in the second night, and Sickle again makes them this wonderful meal, this great meal, and then we approach the night, and once again, they're taking watch. And when it comes to Waverly's shift, Waverly actually rolls a decent enough perception to start seeing this figure again moving in the bushes, this unknown figure. And unbeknownst to me, this is where I thought combat was going to happen, right? I said to my party, if combat's going to happen, it's going to happen. I'm thinking in my head, if combat's going to happen, it's going to happen right here and right now. And I'm thinking in my head, I really hope they don't kill this character for things they don't know yet. Not necessarily for things they don't know yet, but things that this character will do when this character is revealed and ultimately wants to, talk to them. So if they wanted to get into a fight with this character, I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting, because if they got into a fight with this character, it was going to be a very interesting encounter, to say the least. I think something that nobody was going to be expecting, which is also such a really cool idea, just to have a fight that even the DM is not expecting, but I had a backup plan in case they did enter a combat scenario with this, and in this case, thank God they didn't. It was a very stressful situation, though, for me as the DM not to screw this up as well. So Waverly starts pulling out Croaker, which is her artificer, artillerist, frog, force ballista, and starts shooting force ballistas at, everything. And eventually, as the force ballistas miss their mark, Waverly turns around and there is this figure sitting at their camp, standing by the fire, and all of a sudden the tension just skyrockets in the room as I try to play this character as a very calm, cool, and collected person, but you can tell he's very nervous in this situation. He explains to Waverly that, hey, he did not want to get shot at. This is going on. And this conversation goes on for quite a while, so much so that the rest of the party actually ends up coming out, and the tension in this rises even further.
Just staring.
Menacingly.
Croaker turns around. I pull out my wand. Who the fuck are you?
The voice for this character I've made is super, super funny. And my one player loves the way I did this voice. So I'm hoping to keep this voice going throughout it. It's Toby. That's how I warm up that voice in particular. So it's the person kind of sounds like this, but they're more confident in their ability. But as you can see, the tension being so high in the situation right now, the person kind of sounded like this the entire time. Not so much, this is not meant to be a British accent or in any way. This is more of a, Toby, this is more of a very confident sounding businessman voice, which is what I was trying to go for here. And, so the tensions rise and they improve. And the party learns that this gentleman is lost. For lack of a better word, he was traveling with someone in a bluish white garb, almost a kimono-like, and they were both on their way to Belmire as well. But the one night, this person's friend ends up running off, and unfortunately, my other character here that they are currently meeting is not very good with directions, so he gets lost and kind of starts following around certain caravans. He kind of wants to go in the... He knows, like, the general direction he needs to go in, but he needs some more reliable sources, so that's why he starts following the party there. And the tension's really tense until he starts breaking out this tea kettle. He goes, "You want some tea? Does anybody want some tea? I feel the tensions are very high right now." And he sits there and he sets the tea down, and now the situation starts to calm a little bit. And this was a very fun scenario to act out with my players, because this character, as the night goes on, this gentleman reveals himself to be a leather businessman with a strange sense of treasure hunting, but more specifically treasure hunting of kitsune artifacts. And he starts explaining an old legend, the legend of the Kyubi, which is something that Chaff's character, Mizore, being from up north, has heard of, but doesn't necessarily, like, believe in the Kyubi. More specifically, Chaff's character would have only heard the legend of the Kyubi tossed around. Mizore is a younger character, and some more questions kind of follow, and he explains a little bit about the legend of the Kyubi, and says that essentially there might be some artifacts essentially tied to this legend, and he thinks that this tea kettle that he actually has, that he's brewing tea with the party with, is one of those artifacts. So that is another whole story thread that is currently being set up as we go forward, which is also super fun to talk about, super fun to think about going forward. And then they get some more information on the person they were traveling with as well. He doesn't exactly remember their name. He remembers what they were wearing, but the most he can remember of their name is Kaze. And so after getting all this information and sharing some tea, which is not poisoned, by the way, it's not poisoned, it's not a truthful tea, it's not a magical tea, it was not poisoned, although my players were very cautious, more specifically Waverly. I have started to notice that Badalak, who is playing Waverly, is a very cautious player, so tension building scenes really get under him a little bit, which I feel like is such a good thing, because their character has such a high passive perception. But even with that passive perception, building tension is a whole different story compared to average perception and what they think of things. So seeing that they are a bit more investigative in that regard has allowed me to develop this more as I've gone forward as well, which is always super fun playing with Badalak. And I actually play in another campaign as a player with Badalak as well. And Badalak's character there is very, very cheerful, but not necessarily as careful. My character in that campaign plays... doesn't like the Abyss. We'll just put it that way. My character in that campaign has an Abyss problem. And has had a lot of stuff against the Abyss, but also is in a state of, like, shock. But that's my, like, state of shock based on what happened to them in their past, but that's on my other campaign. Back to this campaign. Our figure then runs off. They do reveal their name. Their name is Toby, as well. And they do manage to, make their way to the north, to Belmire. He doesn't want to stay in this awkward situation. He offers to sleep really far away from the party, but then he decides, they might kill me in my sleep. So he kind of walks off and lets the party do their own thing, which was really important here. So the party eventually does make their way from this night, after having a very awkward conversation. There wasn't really a lot of talk about that, into the town of Belmire on the next half-day journey. And the moment they enter Belmire, the biggest description I had for them as they enter the town of Belmire was that Belmire is a town. It's a very... It looks like a town, but it's really a village. And it's a relatively new village. But as my players initially join the village and they look around, one of the biggest things that they see off of the town of Belmire is that a lot of the denizens of the town are dragonoid in nature. You can see a lot of them have like horns, some of them have small wings, some have tails sticking out of them. But it is a very lively young village that they like to consider a town, at least the people who live there. So that was a fun way to describe it. And as they walk through the town, they meet a younger looking dragon. They meet a younger looking dragonoid whose name they don't actually know. They didn't ask. But this dragonoid is a... Let me scroll down here because I've got my notes open on the side as well. That is not that. That is that. That is that person. That person. That person. That's... There we go, I found them. So they approach a young guard-looking fellow, a very young dragonoid, only about 4'5", with orange eyes and black hair, wearing like studded, well-kept studded leather armor with a black hood and a cape, with like khaki shorts that are like cut above the knee at one point and like goes down to the full leg on the other side. They have a small 3-foot red tail that they can see poking out from their tailbone, and they have like protruding cheekbones that they can only assume is like horns that lead up behind the ears, but they don't see where it goes because he's wearing his hood. You can tell that this is not a traditional guard immediately, but they are guard nonetheless, and they care very much for the people of Belmire. And this person immediately notices that they are outsiders, and they let them know almost immediately here that you need to just kind of be on your guard here. We've been having some issues with disappearances in the town. This we've had, and you know, of course my party goes on to ask how many disappearances have there been with that, and I say there's been 6 disappearances in 2 weeks. So that was a tension set up for something else, but he does say, well, just be mindful, and I have other things to do, and he kind of walks off to his thing. The party later learns that the guard here, no thanks to the tavern and one of the shop owners here, actually, the guard here are not necessarily directly tied with Empyrean. It is more of an independent, upstarting village, and these guards are more of a mercenary group looking to just make a living for themselves, so they do that by defending the town. Now, granted, they've only met the one. They still don't know his name, and I'm not going to reveal it here, but that is the scenario they get when they enter Belmire. And Belmire it's a beautiful village. There's a fountain in the center of the village that points in the 4 cardinal directions, and a lot of the shops and areas around Belmire are centered around this fountain in the town, with the exception of the tavern. It's kind of built almost like on a small cliffside. It's a cliff about 30 feet in the air. Not too hard, but not too high, not too low. But there's buildings on top of like the cliffside edges there, and it overlooks these beautiful hills with Belmire. So again, our party kind of decides to get some more information on that, and the guard captain lets them know the person who would know more about the disappearances is in the tavern. While 2 of my other party members decide to go shopping, they also split up again to go get some more information in the tavern, which is cool because this allows my players to now open up a couple more possibilities. And once again, my players, this time Waverly and Russell, so Steleno and Badalak, now move into a little shop, and they approach this shop. And this shop very specifically is it's a magic shop, to say the least. It's the shop is known as Kiri's Exotics, as I let them know. It's I explain how the building looks. It's like a small 2-story quaint blue building in the middle of Belmire. There's a gear symbol behind a potion with various odds and ends surrounding that, with bluish smoke coming out of the chimney. And as they enter the building, they notice it's a well-packed. It's full of alchemy supplies and various odds and ends, magical odds and ends. And the shop owner, very tall lady. She is 6'5", and this very slender 6'5" figure. She's a human. Kind of also wears a blue monk-like robe with white-orange accents, and it flows to her knees. She's got, like, a lot of belts, and she also, on her side, carries a more modern-looking version of a firearm compared to what Tysom has. Tysom has, like, 2 standard, like, Wild West revolvers, like 6-shooters. This character, whose name is Kiri, has this more modernized, technologically advanced, weapon on the side, but it is still, for preference, it is still, at the end of the day, a gun. But there is more to why that one looks more advanced, that we're going to be getting to when the party starts to reach the capital, and when they start to go to areas more east. I will be explaining more of that. It's a really cool, tie-in and setup that cannot wait to share with my players, because D&D is a fantasy world. A lot of stuff can happen, and some places have more technology than others. So it's going to be really cool to develop and explain that more to my players as well, and I'm looking forward to what they hear about that when we get to that point. But either way, like they said, they meet this owner, Kiri, and she's running around the shop doing various things and looking for materials for something that she clearly doesn't have, and she comes upstairs. We do some shopping around, and I offer some various things that I wrote down that she's offering. She explains there is a zirconian dispelling stone. There is an awesome oil of sharpness for 300 gold pieces. There is a bottle of boundless coffee, except I explained that Kiri has modified this one magically. Instead of the bottle of boundless coffee, when you pour it into a cup, not having coffee, this one you can pour it into a cup. It's still a bottle of boundless coffee, but the coffee doesn't disappear if you pour it out of the bottle. So that was kind of a cool thing I had going for that. But additionally, Russell and Waverly inquire about what she's looking for, and Kiri says that she is essentially missing materials to complete this next magic project she wants to work on. The magic project she's working on is the tattoo needle. It's a tattoo needle that allows you to write with your finger, very specifically, but only you and one other person can see the message. And they become very intrigued by this, and the players ask, what kind of creature parts are you looking for? And I was so stupid. This is on me. This is a DM thing on me. I did not have the creature part she needed written down, because initially I thought they were gonna go do this right away, and you can never, as a DM, you can never plan for everything in D&D. So on the fly, I had to quickly look up one of the creatures I have, or common D&D creatures, and I'm like, okay, let's do something simple. They might have to fight it, maybe not, kind of thing. So eventually I kind of decided on a very the sharp tooth of a basilisk, as well as some of its oils. And she said, now the one thing that was established is that the place she needs to go get this, hunters have been hearing strange sounds in the area, and there just seems to be no there seems to be no way the hunters are going in to get those materials, and having, Kiri pays for their services. They come in, they sell her stuff, Kiri gives them the money. Kind of, it's a nice business. It's a well-run village, and it's a well-run establishment in this case. And while they don't end up buying anything, they do end up picking up this request, which brings us into, I think, the most fun part of the session, where, in my opinion, the most fun part of the session, where they enter the tavern. And Missouri and Sickle are in here, so Chatham and Pikmin are in here, and obviously they're inquiring more so about the disappearances than anything. And the one thing that it gets established very quickly is that these disappearances are accompanied by this purple fog. Now, the last time the purple fog appeared, it was about 3 days ago, and the person that was removed from this purple fog was the exact same person that Toby was traveling with when they met Toby back in the camp the night prior, or like the day prior, in that case. So they finally learned the name of who this is, and as the party all regathers back into the tavern, there is this moment of shock for Mizore's character, as the character that has disappeared is his elder sister, Yukikaze.
You could see that she just suddenly grew pale.
Mizore?
Why is she here? No, it's fine. Do you know where she was trying to go in general?
Sickle's gonna wrap their tail around Mizore's arm as like a comfort thing.
Waverly just kind of
She sort of responds by like gripping the tail. You can sense that she's like gripping it really tightly. She's not taking it very well.
wait, just kind of looking at them.
Mhm.
Hey guys.
Did we come
Hello.
at that time?
You may have just come at the perfect time, I think.
Oh yeah.
Got some good information. For better, for
Yes.
worse.
I just glance over at Mizore. I don't mean to pry, Mizore, but you seem shook. Is something wrong?
She lets out a sigh. I guess now's a good time as now to tell you all. So, Sickle, you know that this girl that they mentioned, a person that was in a white-haired person in a white and blue kimono wearing a kitsune mask?
Yeah?
Yukikaze. I know who she is.
Who is she?
Yukikaze. She's my elder sister.
She came to Belmire, as Joan says, almost looking for something, like she was being drawn to something. And he had her stay the night, and the next day she was gone. And this hits Mizore very hard. So there is some talk about, oh, maybe Mizore ran off to this cave that the hunters are in, and that Kiri needs. So maybe the party kind of decides, maybe we can kill two birds with one stone here. That is not the case. In this regard, they cannot kill two birds with one stone here, because the purple fog and these cave things, it's two separate things they can do. They're starting to get some more side quests now. I'm starting to open up the world to my players more in this regard, and I feel great. I feel great opening up the world to my players. I feel more confident now as a DM, DMing for 3 sessions now, and through my experience as playing as a player, I'm starting to understand what makes a good, what really makes a good story. And while the initial couple sessions were a bit more linear, now we're starting to get some more side quests, and I'm really excited for them to get into the capital of Vestadt, because the amount of stuff I have planned in Vestadt is ridiculous. The amount of side quests and things they're going to be able to do. The world is going to open up so much before them, and I'm so excited to get to that. So the group shares a bit of a somber day, and Jom Veller is his name of the tavern. He's an older, he's a dark elf. And there's still more stuff about Jom they don't know yet. They haven't really inquired or asked, so it'll be interesting to see where they go, or if they even do with that. But, you know, Jom gets the sense, you know, he's seen some things. He's seen some people. It comes to a point where, as they're all sitting and thinking their own things, everyone's, you know, trying to cheer up Mizore a little bit, and they all kind of split up and think about things. And then I hit Sickle again with, do you remember what Tyson told you in session 2? He asked, you have a necklace, don't you? And the other thing was, so you're the one she chose. And that is something I have Sickle's character ponder on for that session. And it's more of a quieter, somberer day with the party. As the party arrived midday, they spend some time in the tavern, and it gets to the point where, you know, Jom goes upstairs to go to sleep, and my party's spending a little bit of money here. It's a more moderate, cozy tavern. For room and board, it's 5 silver pieces, but for the actual meal, it's also 3 silver pieces, and it's a good meal. The meal they actually enjoy. Oddly enough, I actually winged this bit a little bit, because Chaffed Missouri actually asked about the meal a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, it's a pretty good meal. And I thought about it for a bit, and I said, everyone roll 2d6s for me. So I had everybody roll 2d6s, and they gained, because the meal was good enough, and it's a very moderate, you know, cozy tavern with an inn upstairs, and enough room for 4 as well. It's not a very big inn, but it's moderately accommodating for the people. So I had everybody roll 2d6s, and they all got temporary hit points, which they still have, and they will need them as we get into the last part of the session here, where night falls, and as they're all about to turn in for the night, that purple fog rolls in. And they see 1. And they see 2. And this fog is kind of like... Nice Discord notification. This fog is kind of like shimmering back and forth. It is... like almost something's within that fog. And it draws the party out. And a small chase ensues, where they run out, and they run past this fog, and they run past this town, and eventually they reach this forest clearing. They have run quite a while out of town. They have run about 2 hours away from town, past the farm, over some things. So they're actually about 2 hours away from town right now, but they kept up the pace. Now, they are long rested. They were ready to go for this. And as they approach this forest, as they start to walk forward, they seem to notice, no matter how much they proceed to walk forward, they are met with teleport, teleport, teleport. Now, initially they thought this was the magical forest that Tysom mentioned, but then someone else, I think it was Battlelac, mentioned that, wait, no, that forest is in the other direction. And I said, yes, this is not the magical Zyfel forest that Tysom mentioned. This is something else. So now we have my party trying to figure out how to get through this forest, and they had the beans to do this. There were two ways for them to do this. The first way they end up doing, the other way was thinking a little bit more outside the box, but I wanted my party to think outside the box in this situation, because I feel like that makes for good storytelling. I can't just give them all the answers. I can't just give them all the options to move forward. So what my party ends up doing in this scenario is eventually they realize that, wait, this might be some sort of magic that can be removed or prevented. And Sickle tries to light up their necklace.
Okay. So staircase is an ouchie zone.
Wait, maybe you should climb over here.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that for myself. Yeah, I'll try over here, and I'm gonna walk over here and climb up here. Fuck.
What the fuck?
Okay.
Okay.
Dude.
Started looking around, and
Could I try lighting my necklace? See if that'll do anything?
yeah, it's gonna say, it's like, hey Sickle, why don't you try your necklace?
I'll give it a shot. And I want to make it the light as bright as possible. Adjusting. Alright. So I'm gonna try to climb up the way we started.
Oh,
Let me try something.
goddamn.
As I
Go for
step
it.
outside the light. Ah,
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Alright, everyone,
Everyone
stay
stick-
close to me.
which was the second option I was considering, not the one that I thought they were going to go to first, oddly enough. The one that I thought they were going to go to first was a pair of finder's goggles that actually Battle Axe character Waverly has, and in this scenario, I changed the way the finder's goggles work, because normally with the finder's goggles, you still get the D4s on the perception checks and investigation checks and stuff like that, but like the way that finder's goggles work is you can basically track a creature's aura if they are marked with a very specific mark. For this campaign, because that mark is so specific to a very specific set of rules, I've modified these finder's goggles specifically to be like, hey, you can track a creature with these as long as you can get a sense of their aura. The rest of the effects of this magical item still apply. You don't need them to be the mark. And that's what I initially thought Battle Axe was going to eventually discover. But they opted to go with the second option, which was they turned on Sickle's necklace, which Sickle kind of focused his energy into it, his thoughts, and created a 30-foot sphere of light that the party was able to stand in and move through the forest without being teleported. So whatever it was clearly doesn't like this Empyrean magic from this crest of Zyfel. And as they approach, they come up on a ruined structure. And I have what you're seeing in the footage right now is there are enemies set up here. These are not permanent placements for anything yet. Or it's more so for like my reference on later things or things if things were to happen. So nothing is set in stone until like combat actually starts, or if combat starts. But it's more for my reference to have them know, hey, where are these checks going to be? Where are, what are they going to need to very specifically do? Is there anything that they need to be on the lookout for? And I always hide these from my players, whether that be a red box on the ground that indicates a trap. My players do not see them. It is more for my reference as a DM. And I'll tell you what, it does very much come in handy here, because as they explore the fog, they are met with this eerie purple fog that surrounds this entire area. All the while, there is this language that they have been hearing, in Abyssal, mind you, going, Corvenask, Novenask, over and over and over. And as they get closer, the language changes, and it gets to the point where Missouri gets close enough and they witness this dead body on an inner table. There is this long-necked, almost wolf hyena-like creature holding this purple crystal, and Missouri watches as this body that's on the table that seemed to have been human at one point starts like cracking. The body just vividly described, the bones cracking, the limbs rotating back into place, and the creature rises up from the table. And then, just to be that guy to my players, the creature turns around and the session ends. That is literally where we end the session. We end it right before combat initiative, because yeah, they've stumbled upon something that is now going to play a much bigger picture with that. There's also this evil demon dog that they also see revealed that also pays them mind now, as well as it as the Null, it's a Null, shouts out something, and suddenly the demon dog that they did see turns around and looks directly at Waverly, who is the closest one to it, and the session pretty much is ending there. So obviously next session they're going to start rolling initiative, but this particular thing, this what they're going to go into, is something that is going to pay dividends way down the line. They don't know what they have started. I know what they have started as the DM, and I am very excited for them to continue to explore this avenue. And this has been a very cool look at this session, and a little bit more of a breakdown session. All in all, the session was about 5 hours and 5 hours and 15 minutes. Ran a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I really wanted to end off just before that combat initiative. So obviously, start of next session, they are rolling initiative. I'm very excited for them to get into combat. Especially because I've been getting feedback. Like after each session, I ask my players. I have a little feedback section in our D&D Discord, where they can write down feedback, what they liked, what they didn't like about the session, what they liked about combat, everything there. I haven't gotten anything for session 3 yet as of recording this. I make sure to like remind them Tuesday. I'll do hashtag campaign feedback, and they'll write some stuff down. But the one thing that I took from last session was a lot of people feel that my combat encounters are a bit too long. And I get that because I roll initiative for each individual creature. It's not like I'm putting 50 rats in a room, though, and then having each individual rat attack individually. That would be brutal on my players. But the combat encounters I have, it's a lot of the enemies that they were fighting initially. The bandits were more fodder, with the exception of Captain Maddox and the Enforcer, who had a Bloody Frenzy, which allowed him to essentially add 2d6 to any damage rolls he did below 15 HP, which is brutal. They might come across some Enforcers again, but these creatures that they are going to engage next session are more challenging, and it should be very interesting because they did want more challenging encounters. Now, to counteract that point, one of my players, again, Shaft, did mention while he does think certain combat encounters go long, he understands that this campaign is in a setting where things might be on the brink of war, and if war does break out, there are going to be these large, massive battles that they might take part in, where I can use that bandit fight and every single thing rolling initiative for a more cinematic fight, a more cinematic experience. And there are ideas for that if it does come to that in the campaign that I am excited to try. More so, it'll be like the party, like just as an example, there was a thought in my head, what if I did like the party versus 75 enemies, but the 75 enemies have this they fight in like groups of 5, but there's this one thing called minion where if you hit one of them they instantly die, kind of thing. Just to make it like feel that they're powerful, but the scale of the battle still poses some danger. And I think that would be a very cool thing to do if we do end up getting to that. So I'm excited to see where that is. But yeah, this has basically been a breakdown of our session 3, and apologies again for not being able to hear my audio, but at least you've been able to hear some of the moments from my players reacting to what I've been saying as the DM. Ideally, this doesn't happen again with any of my sessions. We're just going to make sure all my stuff is ready to go and hasn't reset to default. That's my fault for not noticing it. So hopefully this is a one-off thing, and I'm going to try and promise to make this a one-off thing just to make sure I don't have to do this recap again. But it's been fun to talk about it and talk about the session recap and kind of go into my processes with how I like to run things as a DM, and there are certain things I have to wing and I can't prepare for, and especially for a group of friends that some great friends that I have here playing this campaign every Saturday. I mean, we have a blast overall, and it is enjoyably one of the things I look forward to on Saturday evenings, just playing D&D with friends. I think it's awesome. I can't wait to see what they do next session. There are some really cool things next session that they are going to discover, and things are going to happen next session that I'm very excited for. Some really a really challenging encounter for them. It'll be really fun to see. And I hope that if they're watching this, you guys are looking forward to the next session. And if you're watching this from the future at any point, or you're wondering, wow, he really screwed up his DM job. No, my microphone screwed up. My DM job was not screwed up. This is why I still have clips of the actual thing in there. But with that being said, session 4 will be back to our normal, everybody can hear the audio. And I hope you all enjoyed this little session 3 recap for the Kingdom of Dragons campaign, Winding Roads and Crossing Paths.